Local news, national news, even feel-good news. Delivering the topics that are relevant to you.
That's why I listen to Joe. He covers it all.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
Oh, my gosh. Finally, the show starts. We have been waiting since yesterday to do this show, and I'm very excited to be here with you. Thank you so much for tuning in. On your Thursday drive home, we, as always, have a lot to unpack in 2 hours. We got to, as the song goes, we got a long way to go and a short time to get there. Watch on, Bandit. Watch on, Bandit. How's that go? Never mind. We'll play the Smoking the Bandit theme song later. I have been singing from South Park, Blame Canada, in my head all day because of the smoke that has been wafting across the northeastern United States this week. I'll probably play that song on the radio a little bit later here this afternoon. Let's start off, though, with California Governor Gavin Newsom. California Governor Gavin Newsom today releasing a 2-minute video, and I'm only going to play it one time. I'm not going to play this more than once, so take a listen. This is Gavin Newsom, the totality of his statement in which he is pitching a 28th Amendment that would weaken the Second Amendment.
Every time it's the same. They tell us we can't stop these massacres. They tell us we have to stand by and watch tragedy after tragedy unfold in our communities. They say we can't stop domestic terrorism without violating the Second Amendment, and that thoughts and prayers are the best we can do. I'm here to say that's a lie. In this country, we do have the power to change things, to reclaim our freedom from fear. Our ability to make a more perfect union is literally written into the Constitution. So today, I'm proposing the 28th Amendment to the United States Constitution to do just that. The 28th Amendment permanently enshrines 4 additions to the laws of our land. It raises the minimum age to purchase a firearm from 18 to 21. Because if you can't buy a beer, you shouldn't be able to buy a gun. It mandates universal background checks to prevent truly dangerous people from purchasing a gun that can be used in a crime. It institutes reasonable waiting periods for all gun purchases, and it bans civilians from buying assault rifles, those weapons of war our founding fathers never foresaw. This will guarantee states as well the ability to enact common sense gun safety laws, while leaving the Second Amendment intact and respecting America's gun-owning tradition. The 28th locks in the common sense constitutional protections that Democrats, Republicans, independents, and gun owners overwhelmingly support. And it ensures NRA.
By the way, when he says gun owners, the imagery they show in this video is a couple of guys with shotguns slung over their shoulders, walking through a field, clearly hunting. So he's implying that hunting is the reason why we have gun owners.
Owned politicians can never strip those protections away.
Oh, and I'm sorry, I'll interrupt one more time. And when he says NRA-owned politicians, the first image he shows is Ron DeSantis. The second image he shows is Governor Greg Abbott from Texas.
This fight won't be easy, and it certainly won't be fast. Convening a constitutional convention requires 2/3 of the states to call for this. California will be the first. But that's just the beginning. Join us by going to campaignfordemocracy.com and signing the petition. To protect our communities and protect our freedom, support the 28th.
So that's it. That is California's liberal governor, Gavin Newsom, the once beautiful, once pristine state of California. Now it is in shambles, and their governor wants to water down the Second Amendment with the 28th Amendment. What do you think? 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app. Now, it is interesting because he says that they want to ban assault weapons, but he doesn't define what an assault weapon is. So that's troubling. I mean, there's a lot about this that is certainly troubling. Nor does he specify what a reasonable waiting period is for gun purchases. I guess that's just, those are just the petty little details But what do you think? Is there any part of this that you would support? I will tell you that Governor Newsom has not a chance in hell that this could pass. He just doesn't have the numbers. He doesn't as he alluded, as he said, for this to pass, he needs 2/3 of all the states, and Democrats don't have 2/3 of all the state houses. So there's just absolutely no way that this could pass. There's no way that 2/3 of the states are going to take this up in the state legislatures, even just take it up in the state legislatures, and B, pass this in the state legislature. So this is not going to go anywhere. So this really is just a campaign ploy for him. This is clearly setting up Gavin Newsom to somehow, at the end of the day, maybe come in and save the day from Joe Biden if Joe Biden suddenly is not able to run or decides not to run and takes Kamala Harris with him. Maybe Gavin Newsom is going to be, the guy who steps in and something like that. But let me know your thoughts. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. And let me add another story here for you. Ron DeSantis. So the DeSantis campaign has released a new video on social media that by everybody's estimation is using artificial intelligence generated images, fake images created with AI. In the commercial, it shows stills, photographs of Donald Trump hugging and embracing Dr. Anthony Fauci. But all of these, again, so-called AI experts and photography experts and others are saying that these images don't exist. Just as an example, when you do a reverse image search, nothing shows up for some of these images in which they're hugging. In one picture, when they're clutching onto one another in the White House briefing room, the lettering on the wall behind them is jumbled, a sign that it was created using an AI program. Trump and Fauci also look somewhat cartoonish in those pictures. I mean, more cartoonish in those pictures than usual. So, yeah, the images are fake. I got to tell you, I think that's bad business. I'm very displeased to see Ron DeSantis' campaign using AI-generated images. Donald Trump's campaign did the same thing. Donald Trump, after Ron DeSantis's just botched campaign announcement on Twitter Spaces, Donald Trump posted a fake version of the announcement using Adolf Hitler and some other imagery in that. And I'm sorry, it's bad no matter who's doing it. I think there needs to be a moratorium, and there are so many federal laws when it comes to campaign ads. While I am not a fan of crafting more laws, I don't know that the laws have caught up with the technology. And I frankly think that the candidates ought to commit to not using altered images or fabricated images. Look, when a candidate shows his opponent in the candidate's commercial, it's always the worst picture imaginable. It's always be DeSantis in the worst pose imaginable. You always look for an ugly. If you're DeSantis, you're always looking for a picture of Donald Trump, but he just looks terrible. I mean, that has existed since the beginning of time, and that's not the same as AI generated images, because it's, if I may, it's fake news. And this AI revolution that we're going through right now, that's happening right in front of us in real time, this AI revolution is going to cause a lot of problems moving forward. We saw what it could potentially do in Russia as somebody hacked TV and radio there and created a deep fake of Vladimir Putin telling Russians that Ukraine has invaded their country and that they should move further inland away from the Ukrainian border. The video was a fake. It was a deep fake. They had hacked into the systems. I mean, this is where this leads. And I think DeSantis should pledge to not do that again. I don't know that Trump would pledge something like that, but I think that is bad form to use artificial intelligence, AI-generated imagery in political campaign ads. And, I was thinking about this earlier today in that, sometimes, pretty much every day I'll come on here and I'll criticize something that DeSantis is doing or criticize something that Trump is doing. And I don't want you to think that I want at the end of the day vote for one of those two. I look at Joe Biden and I look at the Democratic Party. That is not a party I support. It is not a candidate I support. So there is nothing that frankly, we could sit here and complain about Joe Biden all day on policy issues. But there's no argument that could be made that is going to cause me to go vote for Joe Biden. And so when I am looking at the candidates, I'm only looking at Republican candidates because that's the only ones that I'm going to vote for. And if you're a conservative, that's the only one you're going to vote for. I think the bulk of our listeners are conservatives. So that's why I will criticize Ron DeSantis or criticize Donald Trump. It's not about me trying to take on Republicans, but I'm trying to keep them accountable. I want our Republicans to be accountable. And I don't want them out there using fake generated images. How about you? 844-580-WDBO. 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app.
I don't take anything Gavin Newsom takes at all. The guy is a kook. He's crazy. He don't know what he's doing, and all he's doing is trying to get votes from the suppressed people that he has suppressed and the Democratic Party has suppressed, and now we call them the sheep.
He does have good hair, though, if we're being honest.
You can tell Newsom and the horse he rode in on.
I feel like there was supposed to be more to that. Was there more to that? The horse he rode in on. Okay, got it.
Whatever you give up, it'll be about near impossible to get back. Give an inch, a mile is always taken. Power belongs to the people.
I'm sure you're right. If we, the United States, were to miraculously pass the 28th Amendment, I'm sure that the gun-grabbing crowd would not stop at that. I'm sure that they would not be satisfied with that until every gun is removed from every American's possession.
Newsom needs to make sure that his attorney general and the state attorneys in the state of California focus on enforcing the current laws on the book and ensuring that criminals don't run free in the streets. More gun laws aren't the solution. Enforcing the current laws like theft, as well as robbery and rape, and ensuring that proper bail is set would do more for people than another gun law.
Yeah, I can't imagine with all the problems they have in California right now, I cannot imagine how this would be a priority. California is an absolute dump at the moment. It was once so beautiful and so wonderful, and now it is just terrible. And Gavin Newsom, instead of trying to fix his state, he looks around and doesn't see any problems. He doesn't mind people defecating on the sidewalks of San Francisco, people openly using drugs on the city streets, gangs of thieves robbing retailers blind. He does not see a problem there.
Hey, Joe, regarding Gavin Newsom and his 28th Amendment, he says he wants to restrict certain firearms and eliminate this. And then in the same breath, he says he wants to preserve the Second Amendment. He's not preserving anything. He's completely shredding it. The Second Amendment says, shall not be infringed. If you're eliminating it, you're infringing on it.
Yeah, but the only way that you could infringe upon an amendment is with another amendment, as you'll recall from Prohibition. That was put in the Constitution and later taken back out of the Constitution. But only a constitutional amendment can override a constitutional amendment. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app.
On Florida's Space Coast, we think you can have the best of both worlds. Kind of like right now. Driving, at your desk, maybe at the gym, but you're also grooving to some music. Visit us and you'll go to the beach and see a rocket launch, or go kayaking and manatee spotting. It's all waiting for you on the only beach that doubles as a launch pad. Plan your adventure today at visitspacecoast.com.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk.
Gavin, California state governor. Learn to govern your state before you want to govern the United States.
I can't tell if that's a bad Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonation or if that's Franz doing a bad Franz impersonation. I'm not sure which that is, but I suspect it is one of those.
This is Kevin from Apopka. I was listening to Gavin Newsom talk about his gun control idea. Sounds to me like this is going to be his bid for running for president.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, no, I absolutely. This gives him an issue. This gives him an issue to run on, and honestly, to that end, if I was in his shoes, I would want an issue to run on, and that would be great. Yeah, that's exactly what this is. He knows that this can't pass. He knows that. I mean, he's not dumb. Let me rethink that. Okay, he's not. I'm sure he's not dumb. But I'll leave a little bit of room there that maybe he is just dumb. But I'm sure he's not dumb. I'm sure he knows that there is no way that this is going to pass. I'm sure of it.
Joe, don't we already have background checks and a waiting period before you can get a gun?
All right, so the waiting period issue, that varies state by state, but federal law, which applies in all states, requires criminal background checks for all firearm sales and transfers by licensed dealers, but it does not require background checks or any process for sales or transfers by unlicensed dealers. So, and I can give you an example of this. I have a small arsenal at the Kelly compound, and one of the two of my guns I bought at gun stores, so they were through licensed dealers. And at that point, I got my concealed carry license. And if you have a concealed carry license, I believe this works. And this was many years ago when I bought my first two guns. But if you have a concealed carry license, it usually allows you to bypass the federal background check because you've already passed the background check for the concealed carry license. And then the last gun I bought, the most recent gun I bought, falls under the category of not requiring background checks because it was I bought it from an unlicensed seller. I had someone make me. You know how like computer gaming aficionados will go out and build their own PCs. They'll go build their own computers, and model enthusiasts will go build their own models and stuff like that. Well, gun enthusiasts build their own guns. There are plenty of people who will build a gun from scratch, and the most recent firearm that I bought was built from scratch by a friend of mine, and it is, according to the liberal media, it's an assault rifle. It is, according to the liberal media, an AR-15. It is neither, but that's how the liberal media would define the rifle, the semi-automatic rifle that I have, and I did not go through a background check for that. And that is, by the way, the so-called gun show loophole. That when you hear people talking about the gun show loophole, that's the loophole right there. That if you're buying a weapon, let's say a father gives his shotgun to his son, that is not a background checkable transaction. All right, we'll get more of your comments coming up. 844-580-WDBO.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. Orange, Seminole, Osceola, and all of Central Florida. Join the conversation now by using the open mic in the WDBO app. Now, the Joe Kelley Show on Orlando's News and Talk, WDBO.
Oh, I got to tell you, I have been texting with my daughter-in-law tonight, actually, here. And I got to share a personal story with you. I'm really, really excited about. I don't talk about this very often, and it's for a variety of reasons. But I'm a grandpa technically, and I have, in addition to my twin sons, Hudson and Brooks, or Black and Decker, if you prefer. In addition to my twin sons, I've got a daughter who's 19, Sierra. And then I have a son who's 32. So I've got a 32-year-old and then a 19-year-old and two 16. Laurel, help! How old are the twins? They're got to be like 16, right? Or 17?
I think they're 16.
They're 16 or 17. We're going to edit all of this out in post because I don't want them finding out I don't know how old they are. But they're 16 or 17. And so you'd be thinking, well, wait a minute. How does he have a 19-year-old and a 32-year-old? I met Joey, my first son, when he was 10. And he was in the state foster care system in the state of Texas. And we adopted him when he was 11. We first met him when he was 10, and we adopted him when he was 11. And he was regrettably from a terrible, terrible home. And terrible things happened to him inside that home. And we went through training and became foster parents initially and then adopted him. And then, of course, as fate would have it, after you hear about this all the time, like, someone adopts a child, the next thing you know, you're pregnant. It's like, oh, my gosh, now we're having babies. And so that explains the age gap there. Now, when Evan, my grandson, was born, it came at a time in which my oldest son, Joey, and I were estranged. My first wife and I kind of, amongst the many things that divided us, Joey was one of them. And it made it really tough because we didn't have the same visions for how he fit into our family dynamic and everything else like that. So there was a pretty long period of time in which I had to pick loyalty to either him or her, to either my wife or to my son. And there was a couple times where, and again, I don't blame Joey at all because of how he was raised. And this is why, one of the many reasons why I have so much compassion for troubled kids, because I have one. He's not a kid anymore, but he was troubled. I mean, he ran away pretty regularly. And so we were estranged for a good stretch of time. And regrettably, we were estranged when my grandson was born. And I can only tell you, I've seen pictures of him laying in a hospital bed the day he was born having open heart surgery. And, man, those images, boy, they just hurts to look at those images. And thankfully, after my divorce and then during the pandemic, I thought, I don't have to pick sides anymore. And I'm going to reach out to Joey. And I did. And he was very kind, kinder than he had to be, honestly. He's an amazing young man. And he and I speak regularly now. And I got to meet my amazing grandson. And I got to meet my amazing daughter-in-law. And my grandson just today was granted a wish from Make-A-Wish. As part of his health challenges. And so I'm so excited, and they're coming here to Orlando, and I'm absolutely thrilled about that, and I'll tell you more coming up in a moment.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
I'm Paul Cross.
Hey, guys, my wife is in the thread right now. My wife is in the chat room on our Facebook page, on the WDBO Facebook page. At least I think that's my wife. Yep, that's her. That is definitely my wife. So that's 17. She joined the chat to tell me that my sons are 17 years old. That's what I said, right? Did I not say 17? So yeah. So my grandson Evan wished to come to Central Florida to go to primarily Legoland, but also to the Orlando area, and they asked me, and I'm seriously about to start crying. They asked me if I would like to participate in the wish, and do you want to come and stay at the hotel with us? Would you like to be a part of this? And I said, oh my gosh, yes. As long as Evan is down for this, as long as Joey is, and as long as Tori is, his wife, as long as everybody is down for that. I mean, I don't want to be an awkward, unwelcome guest. And they are so kind and so generous, and they asked me to be involved, and I'm so thrilled that they're coming here to Orlando. And as they come here, hopefully I'll get a chance to maybe bring them down into the radio station and introduce them to everybody and stuff. It's just makes my heart swell. So that's when you guys hear me talking about the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I mean, it is really something that's so near and dear to my heart. But this is the first time ever that I've had a family member. I've had tons of friends and extended family members who have been granted wishes in the past, but I have never had an immediate family member granted a wish. And it's one of those double-edged swords, right? Like you're thrilled that your child's illness qualifies him or her for a wish, but of course you're bummed that your child has an illness. But to be able to see the brightness in his eyes and to see the joy, and because he has complications regularly from his illness, like a lot of kids do. And so I'm just very excited to have gotten that phone call today, and I'm just so very grateful for the Make-A-Wish Foundation and for all the amazing work that they do. Okay, we got to talk about Subway sandwiches again. And Paul Cross, I see that you have a Subway sandwich. I can see it here on the video stream, and this story has to do with tipping. I saw this headline today at CNBC. Americans have tip fatigue, and they resent what's being called tip creep. Anybody who's ever been in the military, you know what mission creep is. When your mission starts out one way and then it becomes something else kind of creeps in, and now you're doing something different. So tip creep is just that. We used to just tip at table service restaurants, but now we're being asked to tip everywhere. And I want to know from you, what is the most unusual place lately, especially, that you've been asked to tip? We see these reports that little tip screens have popped up on self-checkout stands at grocery stores and convenience stores and drug stores. Who the hell are you tipping if there's no clerk? If it is a self-checkout, who gets the money if you're tipping in something like that? So here's where Subway comes into play. So I told the story yesterday that I went to Subway on OBT up in Rosemont, in the Rosemont area. And remarkably, they didn't have tuna because I wanted a tuna sandwich. The truck hasn't got here, he said. We don't have any tuna. And I said, all right, well, I'll take the roast beef then. And in that case, would you put the mayonnaise on the bread first? And he says, well, we don't have any mayonnaise either. And I'm like, how have you not gone to the grocery store to buy mayonnaise? I mean, I'll go to the grocery store to buy mayonnaise for you. But when I got to the cash register to pay, the tip screen pops up. Now, I went there to get a sandwich. They didn't have the meat, the protein that I wanted, and they didn't have the most common condiment ever for sandwiches, at least in America, mayonnaise. How do you not have mayonnaise? And yet, when the tip screen popped up, I felt guilty. I felt like these poor Subway workers are working their tushies off, and they're probably getting paid a pittance. I'm certain that their pay, can't pay their rent and their car note and everything else like that. And so I tipped. Now, I will tell you that I typically tip, when you get the little screen about tipping and there's like three options, 15%, 18%, 20%. I typically tip in the middle or the high end. This time, I will say at Subway, I tipped at the low end, at the 15%. But I just feel bad when they're standing there right there in front of me. I just kind of feel bad about that. Paul Cross, you've got experiences with this.
You know what? I don't know if anybody else does this, what I do, but when there's a tip jar out there and I have some cash, I'll go to put it in the tip jar and they'll turn around and look at. Oh wait.
Oh yeah.
Oh wait.
Don't you hate that? You don't get credit for the tip.
Well, I don't want to feel like a cheapskate when the bill comes or whatever, and I don't tip them. But if there's a tip jar there and they've been very kind and considerate or whatever, gone out of their way for something, I'll make sure they see me and I'll put in a hey, thank you very much.
Right? Yeah, but it's
the credit.
But yeah, if they turn their back, then you think, oh, I'm going to take the bill back out until they turn around again. But then it looks like you're stealing money out of the tip jar, right? At that point, 844-580-WDBO. Call me up now at 844-580-9326. Where have you been startled to see that you're being asked to tip someone? And what do you do in those situations? Do you tip? Or do you just say, to heck with that, I'm not tipping anything? Do you have tip fatigue? Are you resenting tip creep? You can use the open mic in the WDBO app or call me at 844-580-WDBO.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Your next chance to win the WDBO payroll payout of $1,000 happens tomorrow at 8 a.m. during Orlando's morning news. Just listen for the keyword and then tap the payroll payout button in the WDBO app.
$1,000. $1,000.
Get paid just for listening to WDBO.
This is awesome.
All right. We're talking about tip fatigue and tip creep. And if you're feeling that, let's go to Richard in Mount Dora. You're on WDBO. Hi, Richard.
Hey, Joe, how you doing today?
Outstanding, thanks.
First off, congratulations on being able to reconnect with your son.
Oh, thanks, man. I really appreciate that.
I had a similar thing with me and my father, and I was glad I got to reconnect with him before he passed away. We had about 20 good years together.
That is so nice to hear.
The tip fatigue thing is definitely real. To me, the concept of tipping was for servers and bartenders and stuff like that. Servers typically don't even make minimum wage. They were there for the tips.
That's right.
As far as like the sandwich places and stuff, it is getting a little bit out of hand. But when you walk in there in the middle of a rush, you can see that they're swamped and they still manage to get everything out and they're doing it quick and they're happy about it. Then it's kind of like less of a tip, more of a bonus for doing a good job.
Yeah, I have this weird philosophy in my head, Richard, that I struggle with, and that is when I look at other people that are serving me in whatever capacity, be it at the car wash or at the grocery store or at a bar or a restaurant or whatever, And there's an opportunity to tip, I always look at the other person and think they need this money more than I do.
Well, that's true too, and to me, it's got a lot to do with like if you're going to the same Subway all the time and you're always dealing with the same person, you're a little bit more likely to tip because you feel like you have a relationship with that person.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely so. Richard, thank you so much. I'm sorry to let you go, but I've just run out of time here. My name is Joe Kelley. We will continue straight ahead with more of your comments and phone calls. Plus, as we talked about earlier in the week with perhaps a labor shortage, the robots are coming to a restaurant near you. We've got the deets coming up next.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Now, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Triple Team Traffic.
Got a new crash on John Young Parkway northbound at Commerce Park Drive with the left lane block, and some police activity on I-4 eastbound in the express lanes at John Young Parkway. They have the right lane closed. From the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Crock.
This is
of brake lights into downtown I-4 westbound from Parr onto the 408 eastbound, and then slowing Sand Lake to 535, Osceola Parkway to 532. Through Champions Gate right now on the eastbound side, full speed, no issues at all, but you are going to tap the brakes at the turnpike and then Parr to Lee and 46 to the bridge as of right this moment. This report sponsored by Fresh from Florida. Shoppers, your local farmers are letting you know Florida watermelon is in season right now. Learn more at followfreshfromflorida.com from the Florida Department of Agriculture. And from the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. Talk and discussion on the latest breaking national news.
Crude oil prices continue to fall.
Local news.
You're not going to have Disney have its own government in Central Florida.
And stories that matter to you. Use the open mic in the WDBO app and let your voice be heard on the Joe Kelley Show.
Hour number 2, I am so glad you're joining us here on your drive home this afternoon. If you have just joined us, let me get you caught up to where we are. We've been talking about Governor Gavin Newsom proposing a 28th Amendment to basically water down the Second Amendment. Talking about Governor DeSantis using a campaign ad with fake images of Trump hugging Fauci in this video, and I think that's just bad. That is bad. That is not best practices. That's worst practices. To use artificially generated images, it's fake news. And frankly, Ron DeSantis, if you want to be accused of fake news, then keep doing that. But stop. Don't use fake images that show things that didn't happen, like Donald Trump fully hugging and embracing Anthony Fauci. We're also talking about tips and how Americans are experiencing tip fatigue, and they resent tip creep, and I think a lot of us can relate to that. And then in the last half hour, I shared a story with you guys that my grandson, and I have a grandson, and his name is Evan, and he's cute and he's awesome, and but he was born with a heart defect, and the day he was born, he had open heart surgery, and the reason why I brought it up today was because I was just texting with my daughter-in-law, and I was the one who told them, hey, you know, he's probably eligible for a wish. And then the grand irony is they live in Oklahoma. And in Oklahoma, I was the chapter president of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I was the president of the, I was the chairman of the board. I wasn't the chapter president. I was the chairman of the board of the Make-A-Wish in Oklahoma. And so when I found out that my Oklahoma living grandson is going to get a wish fulfilled, I knew it would be the Oklahoma chapter, where I still have tons of friends there. And so I'm so excited to have the Oklahoma chapter. They'll do it in collaboration with the Central Florida Make-A-Wish chapter. And he's going to come here to Orlando. That's his wish. He's not just to see me. In fact, I think I'm an afterthought, really. But he's coming to Legoland and the theme parks and that whole experience. So I'm really excited for him, and I was really excited to be able to share that story with you.
Well, I think we're probably all crying now. I'm so happy for you, Joe, for all of this. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you so much for saying that. I really appreciate that.
Hey, man, talking about the subway, I live pretty much right across the big parking lot behind it in the condos. I went there a couple times, and I actually order my food through the app, and when I get there, they're not making it yet, and they take people who come in after I do, and they don't hardly have the stuff half the time, and they ask for a tip all the time.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I will tell you that particular subway is not the nicest subway I've ever been to. I will say that the nicest subway that I've been to lately is the one in the Creative Village on Livingston near downtown, or in downtown. That is a really nice subway. Let's go to Jack in Orlando, joining us at 844-580-WDBO. What's up, Jack?
Yeah, hey, Joe, how you doing, bud? I'm a big staunch and supporter of the Make-A-Wish. And thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you for what you do. And those twins and that daughter up in college, my goodness, we look after and we support each other. That's what we do here.
Thanks, buddy.
And tipping, down at Dollar General, my local store, I gave each employee 3 of them $5 bill today for lunch.
Good for you. Doesn't that make you doesn't that just make you feel great?
Well, share the love, brother.
So, thank you, Jack, so much for that, and thank you for your call. Okay, this is going to lead me to another story. Laurel, I've got to tell this story that I told in the chat room a couple nights ago. I was never, ever, ever going to tell this story on the radio, ever. I had vowed that I would never tell this story on the radio because I didn't want to make it look, I didn't want to brag. I didn't want to brag for doing a good deed. Now that I have found out that it wasn't what I thought it was, I'm going to share the story on the air, not bragging on a good deed, but as a cautionary tale. Living in downtown, I run into homeless people all the time, every day. If I walk out my front door, I will encounter a homeless person, period, and full stop. But a few months ago, I went outside and I was walking my stepdog at 10:30 at night, and I am drawn to this guy. And in my world, when you feel compelled, you feel called, you feel like God is putting something on your heart to help someone or to do something or to make a decision about something. And God put it on my heart to help this guy. And he and I said hi, started chatting on the street, and he starts telling me his story. And as he tells me his story, he just got out of prison that day, that afternoon. He'd served 15 years for attempted murder. And he just got out of prison that day, and he had nothing. He had no possessions whatsoever. And so I looked at him and I thought, this is not a homeless guy, a drug addict, this is different. This is a guy that just got out of jail, and I am going to help this guy. And so I never carry cash when I go out and walk my dog. I never carry money with me for this exact reason. And I said, I'll tell you what. I said, wait right here, and I'm going to go back into the building, and I'm going to get a few things. He literally didn't have clean underwear. He didn't have a toothbrush. He didn't have deodorant. He didn't have, but a pair of sliders. He didn't have shoes. And I decided I wanted to help him. So I went up to my apartment and I grabbed him some things and I went back down. And the next night he was back out in front of the building. And I was really enjoying our time. And we sat and talked about God, and we talked about the Bible, and he would quote scripture to me. And I just felt this connection with him. I felt this biblical love of this guy. And as he was going through all the things that he doesn't have, and he was staying, again, he's not homeless because he was staying in a halfway house. And he had like these weird rules because I had offered. I said, do you want me to give you a ride to your halfway house? He's like, no, they make me take the bus. I have to show a bus ticket before they'll let me into the halfway house. And I said, okay. And I said, tell you what. I said, there is a lot of stuff that you need, and I don't want to just go give you money. So why don't you and I go to my car? It was after I got off the air one night, by the way. I said, why don't we let's go to my car, and we're going to drive to Walmart together. And I'm going to help you get back on your feet and get the stuff that you need. And we went through the clothing aisles. We got him underwear, T-shirts, a couple pair of pants, a couple pair of shoes. I got him a big duffel bag to put all of his worldly possessions in. Again, deodorant. I'm trying to think of everything else. And ultimately, the following day, I bought him a cell phone. Because you can't do anything without a cell phone. He needed to apply for a job, and he had to have a phone number to put on the job application. Coincidentally, he got a job at Ace Cafe, which announced their closing, which closed. And we were standing out in front of the building one night talking, and I see a couple of Orlando police officers pull up, and they walk into the building where I live at 55 West. And then the officers walked back out, and they came straight to us. And the officers looked at the ex-con that I was talking to and said, we have to trespass you. And we're sitting in front of the building, and I said, wait a minute, he's here with me. I'm talking to him. And the officers were very professional, very nice. And I said, I'm sorry, but the building wants him trespassed, and so he has to be trespassed. And I'm not going to argue with the cops, but But he did. He did. And I literally put my body between him and the cops. Now, I don't think he was going to hit him. I don't think anything like that was going to happen. But I saw a side of him that I'd not yet seen, and that was anger. And a few days later, I run into him. I hadn't seen him in a couple days. And a few days later, I run into him, and he'd been arrested again. Because he kept saying to me, Joe, I'm going to pay you back, man. I'm going to pay you back. I'm going to pay back everything that I'm going to pay you back every dime. And I said, listen, man, I don't want your money. I don't want to be paid back. The only thing I ask of you is don't go back to jail. Live right. Follow the rules. Be good. Do what the Bible tells you to do. And don't get arrested. Don't end up back in jail. And I became worried about that the way I saw him square off with the police officers. Well, he comes up to me a couple nights. At this point, it had been a week or two, 3 maybe. And I see him outside, and he said that he had been arrested for assaulting a guy inside a 7-Eleven. And according to the ex-con, I don't want to use his name. According to the ex-con or the guy that he punched called him the N-word. I wasn't there. I don't know. At this point, frankly, the whole story falls apart for me. But every single thing that I had given him, everything, the cell phone, the shoes, the underwear, the deodorant, the toothpaste, everything was gone. It was all gone. Every single thing I gave him was gone. And he said that he needed money. And, you know, the adage, fool me once. I'm going to do the George W. Bush version of that. You don't get fooled again. But I said, look, man, I gave you a lot of money's worth of merchandise. I gave you, a stranger, a lot. And I said, I can't give you more money right now. I said, I really need to pray about this and think about this. And in short, he cut me off. We used to literally, we would pray together. Every time I would see him, I would give him a hug. Every time I would leave him, I would give him a hug. I told him I loved him because I wanted him to feel like a normal human being. I wanted him to feel like he belonged somewhere. I wanted him to feel good, so I went out of my way to do that. And when he said, can I have some money? And I said, no, I got to pray about that. He said, nah, man, let's just go our separate ways. And I thought, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? And I have not seen him since. He walked away, and I've not seen him since. And that at this point was a couple months ago. Am I bitter about it? I struggle with that. I really, really do, because a part of me is bitter and part of me is embarrassed. I'm embarrassed. I worked so hard, and I don't even want to tell you how much money in total I spent. But since the story is a cautionary tale, and since the story is embarrassing to me, it was upwards towards $700. It was a lot of money. I've never spent money on a stranger like that. And I feel like I got burned, but ultimately, I did feel called to help him, and I did what God said to do. It is to help those in need. Love your brother. What he does with that love and what he does with that help is on him. 844-580-WDBO. You can use the open mic and the WDBO app.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Now, the 3 big things you need to know.
3. The RBC Canadian Open is underway. This week's PGA Tour event is taking place at the Oakdale Golf and Country Club in Toronto. This marks the first tournament played since it was announced that the PGA Tour and rival Saudi-backed Live Golf will be merging. The man suspected in the 2005 disappearance of Natalie Holloway is now in FBI custody and in the U.S. Jordan Vandersloot is in Alabama, where he faces fraud and extortion charges related to Holloway's disappearance. Holloway disappeared during a trip to Aruba, and her body has never been found. El Nino has arrived, and it could strengthen in the U.S. later this year. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has declared the arrival of the climate phase that brings higher ocean temperatures near the equator. El Nino occurs about every 2 to 7 years and can involve heavier rainfall or droughts to different parts of the world.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Your next chance to win the WDBO payroll payout of $1,000 happens tomorrow at 8 a.m. during Orlando's morning news. Just listen for the keyword and then tap the payroll payout button in the WDBO app.
$1,000. $1,000.
Get paid just for listening to WDBO.
This is awesome.
You can join us at 844-580-WDBO or hit us up in the open mic on the WDBO app. Jim is checking in from Orlando tonight. Hey, Jim, you're on WDBO.
Hey, Joe. I just wanted to share with you that I had a similar experience to what you're talking about. Met a guy in a parking lot. He hit me up with a story, and eventually I asked for money. And eventually, we had a relationship that lasted many, many weeks. I ended up helping this guy out with several $100s worth of help. I actually bailed him out of jail one time for failure to pay his alimony. In the end, I severed the relationship because I think he was setting me up for an ambush on our last meeting to take my vehicle.
Wow.
And,
it's frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, it was very frustrating. But anyway, I think that the lesson to me is that, I had a green light from God. I listened to the Lord. I pray about these things. And, I know in the beginning that that's what he wanted me to do to help this guy out. But I wasn't consistent in praying about this. And I think that it led me into a situation that the Lord didn't intend. But I would just encourage you, to keep on helping people, but to also listen to what God is saying.
Yeah, that is wonderful advice, Jim. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Have you seen or heard of him at all in recent years?
Not since that last meeting.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you weren't hurt and that nothing bad happened. And I thought about that when I invited an ex-con into my car that was in jail for 15 years for attempted murder. I thought, as I'm driving to Walmart with him in my car, I'm like, Joe, you've got an ex-con in your car right now that shot someone. But I felt totally safe. There was never a moment where I didn't feel safe, and I think a lot of that comfort comes from that I am following what I feel called to do.
Yeah.
So, but it certainly makes me think twice. It doesn't mean I'm not going to help someone the next time, but it makes me think twice and pray a little harder, pray a little more often, Jim. Like you say, and see if I'm on the right track on something like that. Because that was a good chunk of money that I could have easily spent on my own kids. I could have made a car note and then some. That's real money.
Yeah.
Jim, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you, and I'm glad you're out there listening. Thank you for that. Let's see, we've got some more tipping. Tip. All right, here we go.
Hey, Joe. Like you, normally I'm a good tipper, 20-25%, but went out for a couple drinks the other night, ordered vodka soda tall, didn't ask for a double, but got charged for doubles, ended up making a note on the bill that I was only tipping 10% because I didn't even get asked if they were supposed to be singles or doubles.
Yeah. I don't ever recall, I'm not saying it has never happened, but I don't ever recall not tipping someone. Even with bad service, I will still leave a small tip. But I don't think I've ever not tipped someone in that kind of a situation in a restaurant setting. I have not tipped people when it comes to the electronic, reader pad at a 7-Eleven or something like that. But when it comes to a restaurant situation or a bar, I always have tipped. I'm Joe Kelley. You can join me at 844-580-WDBO or use the open mic in the WDBO app.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. In-depth segments on topics that matter to Orange, Seminole, Osceola, and all of Central Florida. The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
I love your show every night. You're doing great, bud.
So there is an acoustical anomaly. Thank you. An acoustical anomaly in my apartment. There is a piece of drywall missing somewhere, and so I can hear my neighbors very, very easily, and it's problematic, quite frankly. And of course, it makes me realize that means they can also hear us. So we got to be careful with loud noises and the like. And my next door neighbor is clearly a gamer because I would hear him. I thought he was fighting and yelling at people. And Laurel, gamers will put on their headphones, and I'm not a gamer. I don't have any games, but they'll put on their headphones and their little microphones with the headphones, and then they'll talk to all their buddies and stuff while they're playing. Right? That's how that works.
It is. Yep.
And what I thought this guy was yelling at someone, and then I realized, oh my gosh, that guy's playing a video game. That's what he's doing. And I think when people are playing video games and they've got their headphones on and they got the little microphone in front of them, I don't think they realize how loud they are.
No, definitely not, because I often have to go up to my 14-year-old room and go, you are yelling. And she's like, I'm not. I'm like, yes, you are yelling. I know you think you're quiet, but you're playing a video game and you are yelling.
Yeah, and I kind of chuckle when I hear him playing at this point. It doesn't really bother me. It's like hearing small children play at the park. That's not a sound that bothers me. But I did, on a side note, I did also hear him yelling at what is now his former girlfriend, I believe. He had some choice words for her, but I will tell you, I heard the whole conversation, every word of it, clear as day. I'm telling you, there is a bizarre acoustical anomaly. It's not like a normal apartment where you can kind of muffledly hear your neighbors. It's like they're standing in our apartment. And based upon the conversation I heard, she had it coming. And he was absolutely right to kick her out. In fact, I wanted to chime in. Yeah, that's what he said. Get out. But I thought that would be inappropriate, and plus he would know that I'm listening to his whole conversation. But I wanted to talk about gamers and gaming. So there's a thing that's happening on Twitch and on TikTok and a little bit on Twitter right now, where gamers and streamers are noticing that they have dents, D-E-N-T, dents in their head from prolonged headphone usage. And they're shaving their heads on video, and I've seen several of these videos. And people, after they shave their hair off, they point out to where their head has been reshaped because of headphone usage. And I thought, glad I'm not one of those guys. And then I remembered what I do for a living. And I realized, oh my gosh, I have been wearing headphones almost continuously for the last 40 years. I should have the most misshapen head at this point just from wearing headphones so much. So, Laurel, have you heard of this? Have you heard of people having misshaped heads?
So not until last night, when my husband must have seen one of the videos you had.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, because he showed me some guy who'd shaved it off and there was a dent in his head.
Yeah.
And he goes, because he wears headphones for work as well. And he's like, I hope I don't have that. I'm like, oh, no, me neither. Do we need to shave our heads now? Do we need to know?
Yeah. So I read this story on this, and a bunch of doctors are like, oh, that can't happen because, you need this much weight on a skull for it to actually move. It says you need at least 135 kilograms to cause even a minor fracture in the skull. I couldn't even begin to tell you how much 135 kilograms is because, metric system. But you can suffer a temporary dent that goes away after a while. But have you ever seen babies who have misshapen heads and they'll wear like a helmet for a year or 6 months or something like that. I mean, but of course their skulls are softer than our skulls, right?
I would hope so, or else I'm in trouble.
Yeah, I've been told I have a very hard head. But I wonder if anybody has noticed that they have headphone dents in their head right now. Now, I saw this piece in the Daily Mail. A shopper in Australia. You know, it's so hard to afford food prices these days.
Yeah.
And how expensive everything gets. So this guy evidently, and by the way, his Twitter handle, I think this will have some meaning for you, Laurel. His Twitter handle is @savingforboba. but I suspect if he's saving for boba, that's the drink, not the bounty hunter.
The lame kind and not the cool kind.
Says you. But he and his girlfriend is embarrassed by this. When he goes to the grocery store, and I've seen the video, he does do this. He peels the banana before paying for it. He peels the banana before he puts it on the scale because he doesn't want to pay for the peel. Now, I think that's like, remember when people would say, I'd like a Coke but no ice? And then some restaurants like, no, you have to have ice. You can't just have a Coke. And I think if you're buying a banana, I feel like the peel should come with it anyway. You can't take the peel off in the grocery store. Plus, like if you buy 4 or 5 bananas and you peel all the bananas, then what the heck? And you're doing all this to save what?
And don't they get like squishy and stuck together in the bag?
Right. So he puts them in a vegetable bag and then he weighs them. And at that point, I'd be like, well, can you put the skin back on? Can you reapply the skin and just tie it off with a rubber band or something? It just seems like a terrible idea. So, but it is what it is. All right. Terry is joining us now from Arizona. Terry, thank you for checking in from the great Southwest of the United States. How are you, Terry?
Oh, I'm doing fine, just a little bit bored. But I wanted to comment on the gaming thing. I live in a condo over by the airport, and I have a downstairs neighbor that's all he does at night.
Mm-hmm.
He sleeps all day long and all night long until 5 o'clock in the morning, plays games, and is so annoying. And the funny thing is, I set my alarm for 4 a.m. to get ready to fly out. Well, Monday sometime in the morning-ish, my condo office called and told me that my alarm clock has been going off Saturday, Sunday, and Monday at 4 a.m. And my downstairs neighbor went to complain to the office about my alarm going off. And, I called my sister. She went over and unplugged my clock.
So, and you didn't do it on purpose.
No, I have one of those clocks that have 2 settings and stuff, And, of course, I got up at 4. I didn't have to run out the door till 6, so it's like it never went off. But, as I sat here and thought about it, I don't feel bad at all. I mean, when you get up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning to use the restroom and you still hear that guy downstairs, like you said, with the headset on, talking very loudly, I just thought, what a great payback,
Have you ever tried talking to him and saying, hey, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I can hear you?
Oh, it's funny because some of the units are Airbnbs, and he goes out on the patio at 4 a.m. to have a cigarette and talk with the friends while he's not still on there. And finally, one of the ladies that was on vacation just opened the sliding glass door, and I literally could hear her chew his butt out from my bedroom.
Reading him the riot act, yes. Terry,
I want to get...
listen, man, I appreciate you calling. Thank you for listening all the way out in Arizona. We do appreciate that. 844-580-WDBO. Or hit me up in the open mic and the WDBO app.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Orlando's news and talk.
In the state of Florida, the minimum wage is $11 an hour. Come September, it will be $12 an hour, which is far higher than that of the federal minimum wage. Tipping was never designed for those that are in the fast food industry. It was strictly designed for those that are making far less, which is, I believe, a base rate of $3.02 an hour plus tips. So it's strictly designed for servers, bartenders, and
and waitress.
And it's a good point. And Laurel, you were a server, and were you, as a server, were you paid the minimum wage or less than the minimum wage?
Oh, less than the minimum wage for sure.
So really tips, and this is sad and tragic, but tips, without them, you don't even make a full salary. You don't even make a full hourly wage.
Exactly, right. Yep.
Whereas when we go to, say, Subway or to 7-Eleven or to Publix or whatever, those employees are being paid at least the minimum wage. And while I am sympathetic that the minimum wage is still not a living wage, you really have to realize that tipping is mostly designed for those people who make less than minimum wage.
Yeah, and it's a bummer. And, even people like I was talking about when I was a to-go specialist at Olive Garden, I didn't mind not being tipped on like one meal, but then there are people who would come in and get their stuff catered, and it'd be meals for 15, 20 people. And I checked every single one and made sure it was right, and made sure you had all your salad and all your breadsticks. And when I got zero tip on that after all that work, I was a little bitter. I wasn't quite happy.
But while I can completely understand that, and you should have been tipped on that, I think from a buyer's perspective, they're thinking, well, they didn't wait on me.
Right.
They didn't fill my drinks. They didn't come back time and time and time again to see how I'm doing. They probably just think, I don't tip because I'm not going in.
Yeah, and I understood that later after I was over my hurt.
After years of psychological counseling and lots of medications, I can finally stop being angry about that. Hey, thank you guys so much for tuning in and joining us here tonight on The Joe Kelley Show. You can look for The Joe Kelley Show podcast wherever you get your podcasts. It's Spotify, if you get it on Apple Podcasts, if you get it out of your refrigerator, doesn't matter. Wherever you get your podcasts, look for The Joe Kelley Show podcast. Laurel, Paul, and Ronald, great job, everybody, tonight. And coming up next, it's the third hour of the Sean Hannity Show. Stay with us, and we'll see you back here tomorrow, 5 o'clock. Join us.